Hello everyone, it's Mike Levin, SEO, walking the dog on a drier but chillier morning, November 2nd, 2014, Sunday morning, I guess around 9 a.m. or so, and I'm getting ready to leave for Disney with my family for the second time, and I won't be thinking about work or programming or SEO for almost a week. So instead of thinking about the tiny bit of coding I'm going to be doing like the next day or the following Friday, as is my usual habit now, I will talk in broader terms about how I hope some of my separate projects are going to start converging. So there's this nearly abandoned project. It's still in use, in great use. It's being downloaded like 20 times a day, but it's my own remix of Linux. People say distribution, but I didn't really make my own distribution of Linux. I remixed a bunch of other people's components and connected dots in unlikely ways to make a tiny little 20 megabyte download that you can download onto the desktop of a Mac or a Windows machine or even another Linux machine. Double click it and it'll expand into about 60 megabytes little virtual machine that'll actually run on the desktop of your Mac, Windows, or other Linux machine. And the significance there is it is an identical environment no matter what your native comfortable working desktop is. And that means that all the tutorials on Linux, Python, Vim, and Git are identical. They work identically no matter your starting point. So it's almost like the Raspberry Pi approach, where everyone has the same platform to start out with, so that all instructions are the same for everyone. And I can't overstate how important that is, because one of the stumbling blocks in learning to program or to be technical is variances. Person A is on one platform, person B is on another platform. The installation of Python is a little bit different between machines, or whatever the case may be. And these days, the default is to just do everything for the web browser with JavaScript. But then you have a whole bunch of other problems in that JavaScript really should have a server backing it up, unless it's 100% web-based app. But web-based apps are not an island. So even if you get all your JavaScript code running exclusively in the web browser, there's got to be communication with servers. And bam, you're right back where you started. And it's really just better to control the server yourself from the start, because that's where all the action is. And so that project was somewhat abandoned because I went on to work on Pipulate. And also, it was something of a miracle that I got Levinux to work at all. My distro, or my remix of Linux. It was kind of a magic cocktail of components that every time I revisit the project and try to improve it or modernize it, 100 different tiny problems pop up. So I kept backing off, and it's at a state now where I actually can't run Pipulate on Levinux, because Pipulate targets Python 3.4 and Levinux is stuck on Python 2.6. And so my next step has got to be to modernize Levinux without it becoming a giant project in and of itself. It's got to be only just one or two of my technical Fridays, so that people who want to use Pipulate neither have to install it on their machines nor get a dedicated piece of hardware like a Raspberry Pi, but rather can just download a virtual machine, run it on their desktop, and bam, they'll have localhost 8080 running on their machine for Pipulate, just as if it were installed locally through the magic of something called QEMU, which is a free and open source virtual machine emulator that makes a lot of the Levinux magic possible. And so that's it there. My Levinux and my Pipulate project should essentially come together and merge, I would hope over the next month or two, which will be at about the same time as Pipulate itself is really ready for primetime use for keeping social media counters, or at least keeping track of your popularity in social media, maybe keeping track of search positions on keywords, and a bunch of other of the key metrics that people do in the online marketing world. And here's the remains of the pumpkin pageant that we had here in the park yesterday. That was a lot of fun. I had Addie out to see that. And that's pretty much it. So it'll be a little bit of a hiatus. You can probably still expect some media coming out from me, some videos and pictures. And you might want to check out my Instagram, which is instagram.com/MickLevin. It's like my name, but without the E after the Mike. MIKLEVIN, to see some of my Disney adventures with my family. And besides that, I'll probably not be talking to you again about programming matters for over a week. So thanks for joining me. Hope to see you again then, and don't forget to subscribe.